Hi everyone, and welcome along to today's webinar with myself, Josh Whiten, and today we are talking about the Engage Strategy Debrief, which has been the assignment you've been studying for the last week for the Hilton Hotels Group. So I can see there's plenty of people still logging in. If you've logged in already, please use the chat and make sure you've got it set to all panelists and attendees, and say hi in there. That would be great. That's perfect. So a few people saying hi there, saying where you are in the world. That's great. We've got Hong Kong, Switzerland, Netherlands. Real mixture already. There's still a few more people logging in. You'll have to bear with me. As you can hear, my throat is suffering a little bit. But don't worry, I'll be able to get through it all. I might just need some a drink of water as we go. Hi, Sandeep in India, Cristiano in Budapest, Muki in Switzerland, Ariana in Kansas. Okay, going back the other direction. It's probably pretty early in the morning. Oh, Roberta in New York as well. Thanks for joining. I know, particularly in Kansas, that's probably fairly early in the morning there for you. So welcome along, everyone. So, and especially welcome along today on Valentine's Day, if it's something that you celebrate in your part of the world. I've resisted the temptation to add lots of Valentine's related puns to today's debrief. I've kept it all very professional. So, yeah, okay, so let's press on. So here's the overview of the session today. I've actually taken out the little little reminder about Hilton Hotels and their challenges, but I did at the start of last week's, because you've been studying them for a couple of weeks now. I guess you're sort of familiar. And also, we had so many good responses to this week's assignment that I wanted to share quite a bit more than I normally do. So to make some room in the presentation, I had to cut something out. But yeah, you obviously all were very engaged with the Engage strategy. You also all found it quite an interesting one to talk about and to look at, which is great news. I hope you enjoyed working on it and you found it interesting. So we're just going to refresh our memory about the Engage strategy first. Then we are going to look at how the Engage strategy could be used by Hilton Hotels, and in some cases how it is being used. And then we will review the case study assignment as usual, and we'll look at all the questions, and then we will look at the bonus question. Lots of people completed the bonus question. I haven't been able to include everyone's answers, but I've included quite a few, and I'd love to have some time to run through those at the end. So let's remind ourselves, because as usual with these debriefs, it was a whole week ago that you started looking at the Engage strategy. And a week is a long time, certainly in UK politics, as the saying goes, but certainly a long time in digital marketing as well. So let's remind ourselves as to what the Engage strategy means. It's really how we're talking about how can we better engage with our customers online with content. So it's really focused on content. And there's these key themes in the Engage strategy. Brands need to kind of overcome this scarcity of attention out there. There used to be a scarcity of content with very few channels available before digital. And now our audience are saturated with content, distracted every few seconds with new content being pushed at them everywhere. And really, they have very limited time. So how can we get a small share of their attention as our audience? And it's also this shift. So brands really have embraced content as a great way to engage with their audience. And they've almost shifted from being brands and broadcast single kind of brand messages to being publishers. Think more like media and content creators. And that means being more creative, thinking about your audience's needs more and how you can get the content out to people. And that's the next point. It's not just about creating content. It's about helping users to seek out the content and help them share. And this taps in a little bit to last week. We talked about the access strategy and about those micro moments and being there as a brand when your customer is having these micro moments of needing or searching for something. And being there with content that answers their questions is a great way of doing that. And ultimately, we want to look how, as a brand, we can become a valued source of content for our audience. And there's a commercial reason for this, because if we're a valued source of content, we can become a valued brand to our customers who will come back and buy from us more often and over a longer period. So it's really linking content with lifetime value. And that's something that obviously you looked at in your assignment. So that's a quick summary of the Engage strategy. And one of the models that Professor Rogers shares that I'd like to go back to was this idea of the brand as could be a content producer, a content sponsor, or a content curator. So you're making your own content, you're sponsoring someone else to make your content, or you're gathering together other people's content and adding value that way. And this always reminds me of another model around content online. Some of you may have come across because it's been around for a while. And this is the idea of owned, earned, and paid media. I'll share the links afterwards today of all the resources that I show you. I'll send you an email around later. And I always think it's worth sharing this model just in case you haven't heard it before. It's not exactly the same, but it always reminds me of this model. It's owned, earned, and paid. In terms of you have your online media or your content. There's the content you own that you've produced. There's content you've earned, where it could be reviews or media coverage or bloggers writing about you, or there's content that you've paid. So that would be paid advertising that's out there that you've paid to create. So it's similar but different, and just a different way to think about the same thing. And what it looks like in practice, sorry, my chair is very squeaky in this office. I'll try not to move too much. What that means in practice with owned content or owned media online, then it's, these could be the channels that you own, your blog, your website, your brand channels. It could be ebooks and white papers that people download. And that's very much driven by content marketing. And then you've got your earned, which, as I said before, could be media and press coverage that you've earned through PR activity. Social media shares and mentions, they're a great example of earned content online, people sharing your content. It could be reviews, which we know are really important with TripAdvisor in the travel space. And it could be achieving this viral sort of marketing outcome. And then you've got the paid approach. And this is advertising, and it could be, this pay to play, it could be pay per click, it could be native advertising. And we're going to talk about native advertising in a moment, a bit more in the travel sector. But it could be especially paid social media. Boosted posts on Facebook are a really valuable technique to use. And then also paid can combine with earned. So if you found that a blogger or someone had written something very nice about your brand, you could almost pay to promote their blog post on social media to increase the value of that positive coverage, amplify the value, hence why it's called amplification. And just touching on some of those points, this idea of we're going to come to native advertising in a moment. And the idea behind that is where paid and content overlap is really, you can shift your thinking. Instead of paying to promote your marketing messages, you could be paying to promote content. I'm doing a project at the moment, which is around social selling for a client on LinkedIn. And rather than make a connection and then immediately message that person saying, hey, do you want to buy our services? The whole approach is you get the connection. And then the first thing you do is message saying, hey, here's a link to an interesting piece of content that I think you're going to find useful. And that's what you do. You're not kind of promoting your products or services, you build up to that. And then obviously, as we've said, with these ideas of these owned content or third-party earned content, the social media boosting could be happening. I've done that on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook with the boosted content as well. And we've got this idea of native advertising as well. And let's look at that in a bit more detail, because I've talked about that a few times. So native advertising, over the years, I've worked often with a native ad network called AdUlike, who are based, I think head office is in France, but they have offices in UK and US as well, amongst other places. And what they do is they have a network of third-party media and content websites, and you can pay to place your content on those websites. And when your content appears, it looks like it's not an advert, it's subtle, and it looks like it's content from that website, hence why it's called native. It looks like the native app website that it's on. I've drawn a red box around this example of this screenshot for an airline, Cathay Pacific. This is a case study a few years ago, that they wanted to really position themselves to the high-end business traveler going to Asia. And so they paid to place a series of articles, not about travel, but about Asia and business, aimed at business people, about etiquette and how to do business in Asia, to really help position the brand and raise visibility in that audience. Okay. And this example, the red box is drawn around, was a promoted story. You can see it says promoted, sponsored by the brand. And it's talking about a really expensive malt whiskey that's sold in Taiwan, because we know that in Asia, Scottish whiskey is very popular and can attract high prices and so on. So this was an example of, really trying to engage with this audience. And there's another one there underneath. Yes, this woman really does sell tea to China. So just interesting business stories aimed at business people. And we know that's something quite similar for Hilton. That's an audience that they want to talk to as well. And here's another case study from a tourism bureau. This is a slightly older one. This is from Visit Orlando. Now, Orlando in Florida is very widely known as a family tourist destination because of theme parks. But the tourism bureau there wanted to reposition the destination towards couples instead of families, or as well as families. So they ran this campaign, and it's very small, but you can just see there's a red box on that screenshot, and this appeared on a third-party travel website, content website, with a story about different things you can do as a couple and why it's a great place, a great destination. And there's some stats there, click-through rates, etc. And they really had a really high return on investment because it was a tie-up with Virgin Airlines. So a couple of examples of really thinking about creating content and paying to promote that content using native advertising, and thinking about the content as something that's going to really engage with your target audience. Now, content generally in the in the travel and leisure and hospitality sector has been very widely used for a long time, and is very important. And it takes several different forms. And we're just starting to home in on Hilton now. We're talking about the travel sector that Hilton is based in. And even if you're not based in travel, it's interesting to understand how different markets use content. So in travel, we've got user-generated content, which is massive. Reviews, TripAdvisor, for example. You've got travel blogs reviewing destinations, really big area of user-generated content, or UGC. And then we've also got destination-focused content. That's very common. Why don't you visit this location? Then we've got also inspirational content. Let's think about, if you're not sure where to visit, let's inspire you with somewhere new you've never thought about. Or it could be aspirational. I did some work with a company years ago that did self-catering holiday villas in Florida, actually, and one of their villas was something like $20,000 a week to rent because it was massive with a cinema and a bowling alley, and hardly anyone would ever rent it for a vacation. But we used it a lot in content because it got people's attention, because it was aspirational. Wow, I'd love to be able to go and stay there. But it promoted the brand. Or you have educational as well. And that can be another kind of good hook with your content in the travel sector. And generally speaking, this destination and inspiration content in travel is normally at the top of that funnel, that conversion funnel, that user journey we've talked about. It's higher up because it's more early stage, and we're trying to capture people's interest and start engaging them with the brand. So that's a real snapshot of how content is very often used in the travel and leisure space. Now, this is a screenshot, a recording of a website called Red Carnation Hotels. And you can see here that this RCH is a client I used to work with years ago when I was at an agency previously. And they have a selection of boutique hotels around the world. And they're very upmarket hotels, so much smaller than Hilton, but higher quality. And they have about 4 or 5 in central London, amongst other places. And this is an example of what work they've done in building out content. They have a whole editorial team, so they invest a lot in content, and they are trying to target people interested in visiting London with lots of different types of content. And you can see on their website here, you've got some top London tips, themed afternoon tea, London's culture after dark, etc. and etc. And beneath that, you can just see, then if you scroll down, you see a map of where their hotels are, or it might feature a specific hotel. And you can see at the top, you've got that bar there to search for a hotel and book a room. So you're integrating kind of content and the commerce element as well. And I know this has been very successful for them. And if we just look at London after dark, and for example, what does this quality look like? It's such, this content, because it's such good quality. If we just move on, this is a screenshot of, I'll share links to these, but look how lovely this content is. It's nicely put together, it's well designed, great photos, it's easy to read, lots of interesting things. Some of it you could say is curated content because they're picking together top things from different places. And again, there you see other examples of different types of content for different locations around the world. Kind of replicates a little bit that Airbnb feel we talked about the experience when you go to a destination. So yeah, I'll share links to their hotel, but I think they do a good job in creating good quality content. It's worth checking them out. So we've talked about the Engage strategy. We've talked about Engage strategy and the travel sector specifically. Let's now have a think about how Hilton Hotels could use the Engage strategy or are using it already before we start looking at your answers to the assignment. So one of the features of the Engage strategy is about offering utility and being relevant, so helping people at the right time, basically. Offering utility and the right time, being relevant in the right place. So for Hilton, that could be, instead of saying how to type utility content, it could be where to visit, where to go and stay for a romantic break, where to visit to go see the Northern Lights, where to go in the world to do this. It could be the top 10 destinations in the world for a certain type of break or vacation. It could be things to do in a specific location. So restaurants and attractions to visit, where to eat, where to entertain clients. If it's for the business traveler, which is the next point, you could focus all of this just for business people. They obviously could be looking at destination content, experiences, things to do like the Red Carnation Hotel, things to do in London after dark. Definitely could be looking at video tours, photography, and some of you picked up on these points in your answers. And also, let's not forget using content to do the brand storytelling piece, which is really important, which I don't think Hilton does that well in your view and my view as well, based on your answers. Another feature of the Engage strategy is showing a personal face and targeting your audience. Again, I don't think Hilton does this very well as they could do, but what could they be doing? They could be doing local hotel team recommendations on a local area, guest recommendations, more user-generated content, because people engage with content that seems to be from real people like me. For Hilton, that person like me could be a business traveler, so what's of interest to them? And examples could be, being very efficient with your time and time management and facilities during a business trip, how to use your downtime, how to relax, and so on. And even more general business topics like having effective meetings, business travel, how to deal with jet lag. These could all be topics for content that could feature individual people, Hilton customers, to show that personal face, or advice from Hilton staff members to show a personal face as well. Linking content to conversions. Now, we saw that example earlier from Red Carnation Hotels, didn't we? Where I picked out, they had their search box at the top of the page, and that was a sticky box. So as you scrolled, it stayed at the top. Hilton had the Hilton Suggests travel blog that some of you discovered. And on there, I've just put a circle around, you've got a book now feature throughout the site in the navigation. So that maybe links their content to conversion. There has to be that step, or you have to offer that step or that journey through. Now, you do have to ask these questions. How is content actually driving sales? Just linking destinations and content ideas to hotels is enough. What you want to do is really measure the impact. Later on in this course, I will present a webinar on how to use Google Analytics to measure things and make better marketing and business decisions. And this is one of those sorts of areas you should measure with analytics. The performance of your content, and there's lots of different ways you could do that. We'll explore later on in my webinar. So do try and join me for that if you can. And a quick plug for my webinar later on in the course. Another question Professor Rogers poses during the Engage strategy is who creates the content? This is something we need to think about. Is it the brand or is it the user? Now, for Hilton, which is it? We know as a brand, they like to keep global central control, or should it be delegated out? User-generated content, obviously the user's creating that, local tips and guest reviews. Co-created branded content, you could partner with business magazines and websites, and they have done some of this in the past to co-create, maybe that's sponsored to the content. You could enlist local filmmakers to tell local stories, and lots of you talked about ways Hilton could better use YouTube, for example. And lastly, you could co-opt travel bloggers by offering them free stays at your hotel to write nice things. That's something we're going to cover more in 2 weeks' time. So I think next week it's the customize strategy. And then after that, it's the connect strategy. And I think in the connect strategy and collaborate strategy, we talk more about engaging with travel bloggers and influencers and trying to use them to promote your brand. You'll remember the example from the course of Wren's Engage strategy with their video, the first kiss video, very emotional, but very subtle branding and very subtle product placement by Wren. Is this something that Hilton could do? How could Hilton adopt this highly engaging, very emotional, but quite subtle branding approach with video? Okay. And this is something I always went away and thought about and gave some thought to. My idea, this was just my thinking early on when I first started getting involved with this course, was Hilton could do business leader interviews. So they could film some head-to-head sort of talking head video interviews with key business leaders or influencers, or they could be people who've achieved something amazing with some content to share of interest to business people, like sports people or world leaders or that type of thing. And these videos could be short, but deliberately engaging, thought-provoking, with an emotional angle. And then my idea was you could film the interviews actually in a Hilton hotel room or suite. And you know, when a film comes out and all the actors in the film get interviewed in a hotel by the press, you know, that type of style. And then at the end of a video, you just pan out from the person, and maybe they're saying thanks to the interviewer and taking their mic off, and you pan out and look around the room and credits come up saying filmed at the Hilton Chicago. So it's subtle product placement because they're in a Hilton hotel room filming the interview with the business person. I just think that would be one possible way if you wanted to try and emulate or copy what Ren's did with their type of video. Now, after I first came up with that idea, a couple of runs of this course ago, I discovered something similar that Hilton had actually done. And occasionally some people find this when you do your research. I don't think anyone did this time around. So I always like to share it anyway, because for some reason Hilton made what I think are really good videos and then made them impossible to find. So they're really hidden away. I will share the links to these videos, okay? But as I did before, when I run a video, I'm going to disconnect my earphones and play it with my onboard mic so you can better hear the sound. They're really short, there's 2 of them, they're just 30 seconds long. If you can't hear them well, don't worry, I will share the links to you so you can go and have another look at them. So bear with me just 1 second.
Meeting in person personalizes what you're talking about, why you're talking about something, and what you're going to achieve together. Hilton's always helped me do that because they're always centrally located. And whether it's downstairs at a restaurant, I think it's important that you have a convenient location for people to meet. Hilton data shows that 65% of business travelers bring their workout clothes but never work out. I find it really important to not change my routine so much when I'm traveling to keep myself as healthy as possible and connected to my normal routine.
So I'm back. Hopefully the sound was okay on that. I'll share those links. But these Like a Boss series of videos, there's a few more of them as well, I think. I think they're really interesting because they're obviously an engaging person. They're talking about topics which business people would understand. I know when I've traveled on business, I've packed my trainers and my running kit with all the best ideas about going running in the hotel gym or around the local area. And my trainers never make it out of my suitcase. So I've done that on the second one for sure. And so they've obviously done some research, got some voice of customer and built some videos around them. It's just a shame they don't seem to use these videos. They're a lost asset. So, but I'll let you go and explore those more. So yeah, let's just stop for a moment and just pause. Oh, in fact, and someone said that they couldn't find those videos in Hilton Honors. Yeah, I agree. These videos were made a couple of years ago. I found them on YouTube. I haven't found them in any of the Hilton websites or app or anything. So yeah, they're really well hidden, but really good quality. So have a little think. If you've got any questions, you can use the Q&A box as we did last week as well. If you want to ask a question, we'll just pause for a moment. I'll check. Okay, we're doing okay for time. Let's have a look here. Okay, so someone's asked, could I further clarify what native advertising means? Yeah, absolutely, because it is a technique not many people have come across often. And it might be worth you going and searching out and having a look on the website for Adulike. I will put their brand name in the chat for you now. Adulike, go and check out their website. But native advertising is when you are paying to feature your promoted content on someone else's content website, putting it simply. So you don't show an advert, you don't show a banner ad, it's not a text ad. You write an article and then you supply that to an ad network and it will appear across thousands of other content websites on relevant pages. So if it's an article about travel or personal finance, it will appear in the travel section or the finance section. You very often see them on websites where you see a panel of them and it's called promoted or sponsored content. Another network is called Outbrain. I've just added a chat there, put that in the chat too. Worth having a look. Outbrain is for a lot of people, it's more self-serve DIY. You can get started with it yourself. So yeah, follow-up comment. Will it be paying LinkedIn to post? Not really, because on LinkedIn, when you publish and pay to promote a post, it's very obviously from your brand. It comes from your company page. It shows up in everyone's feed, but it's sponsored, but it's from your brand. So it's more obvious who it's from. But it's kind of the same with native, yeah, but it's the content will appear on many other places and it looks like it's the content of the website it appears on. That's what the native part means. It's in the same look and feel and style visually as everything else on that website. So it is kind of fooling the user a little bit. They'll see an interesting article and click on it, and actually you've paid for that article to appear. In the old days, if you're as old as I am and been doing marketing as long as I am, it used to be called advertorial offline. I don't know if anyone remembers advertorial, which is a paid editorial. You'd have an article appear in a magazine or newspaper, and it would kind of say, this is a paid article, and that was called advertorial. It's a similar thing. Hopefully that answers. Go check out those providers of that if you want. So another quick question, how to work in B2B channels, like with the travel agent? Yeah, that's a good question with B2B. Often Hilton are targeting, I suppose, a business end user. But content and native can work. It is harder though. You have fewer options for B2B with native advertising for sure. It is more aimed at business to consumer. You can approach business websites directly, and I suppose Forbes would be a good example, something like that. And you can, some of them will offer like a native product amongst their advertising portfolio of products that they sell, where they will even write the article for you, and then that will appear on their website, but it appears as sponsored by you. So with B2B, there's not so many of these bigger networks for native, but you probably have to go to individual websites that are relevant to your industry vertical. Let's mark that one as paid. Another question. These questions, they do keep me on my toes. Could I tell you another example of creatively linking content to conversion and sale? I understand the theory, but I don't know how to do it in real life. You know what, actually, next week, I'm going to show you a model, a diagram that I think will help answer that question. So I'm not trying to duck out of answering, but it's quite complex to answer, but I've got a great diagram which illustrates it and shows it really well, and how you can use content to start a journey and then other channels to push people through a funnel towards conversion. Because I think the key point to remember is people will not jump straight from reading content to buying something. Conversion to content is not just one step. There could be multiple steps, and people could bounce around and go back a step and forward a few steps. User journeys are complicated, as we talked about last week with the access strategy. So I think that's a key thing. Retargeting is a massive tool to use, paid retargeting. If you're paying to promote content using native advertising, and everyone who reads that content, if it's put on your website maybe, or using boosted posts, and then you need to do the next step to take them to the next step in the journey. So then you do retargeting, and your message might be to show them a second piece of content because they might not be ready yet. It might be people have to read 2 or 3 pieces of content, and then you say, hey, do you want to buy something? Or do you want us to help you? Or do you want to speak to an expert to help you out there? So I think in real life, as you say in your question, it is hard to do. and you need to be a little bit more sophisticated and just think about yourself and how you use the internet and engage with content. It's not that often you read something and when you're so convinced you go and immediately buy it. You need to move people gently through that journey. But next week, I'll show you a really good diagram that explains that. Hopefully that helps. Great questions. Thank you for that. Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Keep them coming in. Keep thinking about questions. Or I'll have another quick opportunity at the end of any other questions that you think about. So let's move on now. Let's just check if that covers everything. Oh, okay. And someone's just put in the chat, actually. Annabelle, thanks. You just shared a link, but you shared it just to all panelists. I'm just going to copy and paste what Annabelle has just shared. I hope that's okay, Annabelle. This is not my find, it was Annabelle's. I'll share it back to everyone there so you can see. That's fine, don't worry, Annabelle. Not a problem at all. So yeah, thanks for that. Hopefully that will help people out as well. There's another one, actually. I think I might not have spelt it right. I think another is called Taboola. That's another native advertising platform. Cool, let's move on. I'll let you go and follow up on those afterwards. Right, let's talk about your answers to the case study. So we asked you to pick a minimum of 2 digital channels. Some of you did about 5, which was amazing, but only needed to do 2 minimum and analyze them. For each of your then chosen channels, answer these questions, and let's run through these. The first one was, how effective do you think Hilton's content strategy is in engaging with their customers, and explain why. Now, as usual, I'm going to show you a collection of previous good answers from previous courses. You get all the best knowledge from everyone else who's done this course, and like examples of model answers, and also some I've chosen from reviewing everyone's assignments over the last 24 hours, of some extra newer, more topical ones I've added in as well. Overall, for this answer, people thought that it's a fairly positive view, but overall, maybe Hilton is a bit too impersonal, not enough of that personal face. Sorry, that's just my phone going. Let me reject that. Most people generally looked at Instagram, website, app, and some others looked at Facebook, blog, and YouTube. And a few found a microsite. So let's share some of the comments about social media. And the most common one is Instagram. Lots of people give lots of praise for Instagram because Hilton does do Instagram very well. But what I've never quite understood is the Instagram channel is really focused at consumers and not really the business traveler, who we know are a really core market for them. Maybe they feel they get the business traveler anyway, and in order to grow, they want to get more of the consumer audience. So they invest a lot of effort into Instagram. You can see some of the examples here. The hashtag share my Hilton pick hashtag, for example, is a really good one. And there's all sorts there. Posts of beautiful places with beautiful people in professional photos. But to put it in Professor Rogers' words, they don't show a personal face. And also this person feels, this is the third point here, they miss an opportunity to engage with their customer. For example, there should be more of a diverse crowd, people of different ages, of different ethnicities, doing different things. At the moment, their Instagram could be just looking like models, super good looking, fit young people laying by the pool and drinking fancy drinks. I think that's kind of a fair point. Lots of you this time picked up on Anna Kendrick. Well, I say lots, quite a few of you. That's an interesting trend. Normally, the last few runs of this course, no one's discovered Anna Kendrick, so she's obviously being used more and more. I keep seeing more ads on my Facebook feed from Hilton with Anna Kendrick. So these are 2 new examples. The global campaign, Expect Better, Expect Hilton, features Anna Kendrick, the actress, if you don't know, to try and target maybe millennials and Gen Z. by really looking at those frustrations of potential customers. And a lot of them is about this price match guarantee and trying to get people to book direct and not through those online travel agents of people like Booking.com and Expedia. And the next one, same point, had her as a spokesperson since 2018, resonates with the audience. She's now the star of every Hilton commercial, so she's a lot more widespread now. And you know, they say the metrics show it's very successful. Here's a little example. I think these play as videos, so I'll just unplug the audio and give them a try again.
Don't you get the best price booking at one of those travel sites?
They tell you that, but when you book at Hilton.com, you get the price match guarantee. So if you find your room at a lower rate, Hilton is like, we're going to match that rate and give you an extra 25% off.
What would travel sites do if you found a better price?
That's not my problem. It's your problem. Get out of here.
Wow, I really felt that performance.
Just acting. I'm really good at it. Book at Hilton.com and get the Hilton price match guarantee. If you find a lower rate, we match it and give you 25% off that stay.
So as you can see, that's actually from an Instagram ad. So they're really using that. It's quite, you're probably seeing it everywhere now. You've been on Hilton websites as part of this course. You've probably seen loads of retargeting. This is another example using Cinemagraph, I think this is, or certainly a video loop, a bit more engaging sort of content. So over the couple of years, year or so I've been doing this course, you know, when I started, Hilton didn't do any of this stuff. It's only more recently that they've really, in the last 1 or 2 runs of this course over the last 6 months, they've really started doing a lot more. Facebook. Now, but there's a bit more criticism of Facebook. Some people said that, that they didn't find Facebook content very engaging. Sorry, if I missed a slide there, let's just check. Oh, no, sorry, I was getting confused there. It's not a personal face. The content just isn't very engaging. It's just a series of posts from Hilton and lots of comments on there. Very often, some of these comments, as we'll see when we look at social customer service, are not positive. It's more of a customer service channel on Facebook, and unfortunately, they get a lot of criticism on there. Again, this person thought their engagement strategy has not been very effective because on LinkedIn, they have a large following, but the engagement rate leaves a lot to be desired. Same on Twitter, a lot of followers, but very little engagement. So really looking at some of those other channels, it seems they really do Instagram well, but neglect some of these other channels. Snapchat, Hilton, this was a case study from a little while ago, some of you found. Hilton, a few years ago, believed Snapchat was an essential element moving forwards because it helped them reach current and future guests. It's about a point, future guests, younger audiences. So I'm not sure how successful they've been in that, but it's certainly a channel they've looked at. Lots of you talked about the website, and there's some positive feedback, very clear about its product offer, value for money, strong design layout, not much clutter, very smooth, easy to use. Another person thought clear content, easily clickable search, up-to-date, modern-looking site. So positive feedback on the website and critical feedback on the website. Someone thought it was very static, and that was a point that a couple of people you said actually about Hilton being static and not very dynamic. No catchy video, no chat agent support, etc. Italian version is not good, and the website very attractive but concise, nothing special compared to other hotel websites. Some of you looked at the Hilton Suggests travel blog. They said key messaging focuses on specific locations where they've got a presence, and the target audience is obviously the adventurous traveler, so that's good. Another person said it's predictable but a good effort, solid effort, endless suggestions of where to travel. The call to action is tastefully at the bottom though, that content to conversion question we were talking about earlier. Some of you looked at the Hilton Honors app. The look and feel of the app you feel is less corporate, more like it's enticing people to take a holiday. Someone talked about the app at length in their access strategy last week, but it spills over into engagement as well, and that they actually think there's more that could be done with the app to get people using it. Video. This is a really good point, actually. And increasingly people make this point on this assignment. The Hilton YouTube channel is really not very good. PR propaganda only, not many followers, not used to the full potential. And someone always finds this quite old case study now, something called a microsite they built in a campaign called the Hilton Urgent Vacation Care Center, which was a humorous website where business people could go take a test online to see if they were suffering for something called vacationitis, which was that they needed to have a vacation. So it was a lead generation campaign run with a website called The Onion, I think it was, or a content website for business people. Next question, do you think the content was created in-house or by an outside agency? There's kind of no such thing as a wrong answer. You just have to make assumptions based on research and best practice and argue your answer. So I don't go too in-depth into here, but you can consider the practicalities, this global versus local, or brand versus hotel, local face of a business, and also access to skills, which we'll come back to on the collaborate strategy. But the general view is it varies across channels, but central control is for in-house brand content and external resources used for inspirational content, that more creative stuff. Mixed views on the quality. Just really quickly, these are just some examples that people thought is internal. There's lots of this and it's all pretty similar. In-house because they must understand the brand. This person thinks it's in-house because they've got to be constantly updated, so that would have to be in-house, and it's got to be in-house to maintain a continuous image. All good points. This person found an article from The Drum online website for marketing saying they've been building this centers of excellence, which proves it's shifting from agencies to in-house. Internal again, Facebook must be in-house because but it's different teams who don't talk to each other. And then internal because they found an example on the Hilton Careers Instagram where 200 team members have commented on that. These people said external, some examples. It must be a media company because content's not their core expertise. The travel blog must be external because otherwise they'd have to have 150 travel bloggers as their permanent payroll, which isn't practical. And external because Anna Kendrick and the use of her must be done by a professional ad agency externally because it's too good really to be done in-house. External because it needs objectivity, and also external because they didn't feel much of a personal touch about the Hilton brand, which makes them think it was put external. And then some people thought both, and they found some evidence of this. Got to about the newsroom, and then they work with regional partners and how this works. I won't go through all of this in detail, I'm a bit conscious of time. And again, both website and Instagram is probably a collaboration with in-house and outside agency. Website content is by an outside agency, but probably the website is managed in-house. And so on. And this person found a quote from someone saying that they were actually building, again, these centers of excellence, so some in-house and some external. Question C, this is always one of the weaker questions in terms of the answers, always a bit weaker. It's about how does the content strategy lead to two things: increased sales, which is acquisition, and higher customer lifetime value, which is loyalty. But most people say that engagement helps develop the relationship with the brand, which helps push people through the customer journey for acquisition and build longer term lifetime value. But normally there's just not enough examples of how Hilton does this. Reviews and inspiration for acquisition, then acquisition to rebooking, channel shift to get people to book direct rather than through OTAs. Here's a few examples though. For acquisition, social media is a good job showing locations, which gets people interested. So that inspiration part, which will drive them to the website and then to a booking. Website content engages by giving them information and showing them related products. So that should help with acquisition and increase sales. The strategy with the easy click to call action buttons on the app and website should increase sales. So that content to conversion again. Flip into customer lifetime value and retention and loyalty. Relevant content helps to draw customers over and over again to your company and positively influences repeat purchase. They have the brand in mind subconsciously, and that influences their choices. I think actually that's probably about one of the best answers I've seen on this. There's some others here and they're all saying pretty much the same thing. So I think we would just skip through these because they're really all making the same point in slightly different ways. And you can see there's quite a few examples of people saying the same thing, but I'll share this round and you can look at this afterwards. Can you think of one approach to engage strategy not being used by Hilton? Lots of people talk about brand storytelling and more personal faces. There's normally some people mention live chat, chatbots and AI. I think always with this question, there's not enough people think about content inspiration at the top of the funnel, user-generated content, or targeting by segments or customer needs. We will talk about segments next week in the customized strategy. And email marketing never really gets mentioned much. But here are some examples. We've got using content for thought leadership. Could be something Hilton could be doing, highlighting key leaders' thoughts and insights. The second point, with all the data Hilton has got, they could become a thought leader by tapping into that data to identify trends and sharing that around. Someone shares an example of what Marriott Magazine does with Travel Brilliantly, it's called, with a website, and says basically Hilton could do that. I'll share the link round to that. Someone else says live chat could be done better. Could also use a chatbot or AI for that. Video, now this cropped up a lot this time. Could have someone doing Facebook videos, more videos on YouTube. YouTube again, think and redesign their content like the Ren's advertisement, be much more engaging. YouTube, because it's the second biggest search engine, they could create video tours of their locations and get more views. Local areas, they looked at YouTube and say it's actually horrible. They could be using the full potential of video more. They've got hotels all around the world. They could have an amazing YouTube channel with millions of followers. That's all really good points, I think. Personal face is something they could do more of. And this person says that it's very light, something lightly branded like the Ren's approach could be successful using human experience with light branding. This person said they'd love to see Anna Kendrick as the face of Hilton greeting them when they launch the Hilton app. That's a great idea. I look for her there now because I'm so accustomed to seeing her in all the other channels like I have too. That's a really good point. More on the personal, more faces and more dynamic targeted content, less static, more video and interactive, more videos of customers sharing their experiences and storytelling videos. Talking about experience now, people sharing their experience during their stay and so on. Hilton hotel concierges sharing their knowledge on a local area as well. So really tapping into that internal content that they're sitting on potentially. User-generated content, testimonials. They could run a campaign, My Hilton Experience, so really more like reviews with prizes. You could gamify that. Testimonials from customers is the second point there, but done as videos. So you can see really common themes coming out now: personal faces, videos, storytelling, experiences, generally you could sum all this up as being more authentic, I think, and engaging. Better use TripAdvisor or Trustpilot. These were a couple of newer comments that were made, and you know, just because those sites are so powerful, really amplifying those reviews. So lots of examples there, more than normal actually. It was, I'd say this run, it was one of the best sets of answers for this engaged strategy assignment that I've seen actually since doing the course. So well done, everyone. And I'll just skip the last one, just conscious of time. So Hilton summary. We think Hilton are doing well with Instagram, the Hilton Suggests blog, the website and app, and building brand relationships through content. They could do better about a more personal face storytelling video and YouTube. And maybe what could have been mentioned more is about user generated content, localizing we didn't talk about much, and better segmenting we didn't talk about much. Now, here is the list. It's a big list this week of people who I think did well. Is Alexandra Trupp on the debrief today? If so, raise your hand virtually. I just want to pick you out actually, and I don't normally do this, but I think your answer, if you are on, I can't see here, let's have a quick look. No, I don't think you are. Oh, that's a shame. Hopefully you'll catch up on this on the debrief. I did send you a message to tell you though. Alexandra's answer was actually one of the best I've come across during this whole course. I'd say all the responses were really good. Well done if you got your name up here. Lots of you did. Well done to you. I think these were all people I picked out because I think you did a particularly good job. Loads of assignments to read through though, and everyone who submitted did well. No one did a bad one. Don't worry, one or two were incomplete and I've reached out to you directly to ask you to complete them. But everyone did well, but these guys did particularly well. So well done to you. Your grades aren't affected with the overall course, so don't worry. Now, I have a bit of an issue now, and this rarely happens. I think it's because so many of you answered this assignment so well, we had so much to share. We've only got a couple of minutes to run through your examples for your own brands and how you would use the engaged strategy. What we might need to do is you have to look at this in your own time when we share the link round to the deck. But I will just bring them up on screen in case you're watching this on the recording. We've got 2 minutes left, so at least you could pause the recording and read each one if you're watching this. But we had an example here about financial services in China. That was an interesting one, using a WeChat page. Nice example. Always love to hear about how China and other markets like China can be different to other parts of the world. We had one here about hiring a marketing company. So this was more of a case study. They built a content strategy and it worked very well. So I'm just getting these up on screen so you can kind of pause and look at on the recording. A health sector. This is about trying to impact healthy eating habits using content and articles to explore, you know, really great use of engaged strategy to have a positive health outcome. Hospitality sector. This is for a restaurant. And this was about, could do a campaign for Valentine's Day. How appropriate to share this today of all days. And I like this one. It's the start of a photo of the restaurant owner's husband and wife, and a little story about their own love story, and then asking you, what's your love story, about people who've had romantic meals at that restaurant in the last 17 years that they've been open. First dates, engagements, weddings, proposals, even clandestine love affairs in the restaurant using that hashtag of a love story. I think that's a lovely idea, really engaging, really emotional. Thank you for sharing that. Checking on time. Food, Belgian chocolates, again appropriate for Valentine's Day, do you think? They have done this already and developed stories behind the brand and the people behind the scenes. Great example of engage. I think we might just get through these. Education, and they've taken bite-sized pieces of their bigger training materials and seed these out into social media to get people engaged and interested. Great technique to cut up your content into smaller teasers and push those out to get people to engage. B2B one, using native and branded sponsored content. So it's an idea about what they could do, and also using webinars. Don't forget, webinars are a great source of content. When we talk about content, it doesn't have to be written. It could be pre-recorded webinar or live webinar sessions like this one today. And I've used that a lot in B2B as for lead generation. And another one for B2B. And actually, this is actually more about the DIY sector. Sorry, just going to skip through these. Get the last one on screen. The telecom sector. You'll have to pause and read that afterwards. Another one for travel to Costa Rica. All pretty classic stuff. Phew. Thanks for bearing with me. Sorry we ran out of time a little bit at the end. We did have quite a few questions halfway through to cover. You get, last week I said you get a survey sent to you after each debrief. I apologize, I was incorrect. You get a survey every week, and in there you can give feedback on the different things you've done that week, including today's debrief. So please do leave your feedback. It's really helpful. It gets shared to all of us as course leaders, and it really helps us improve our content moving forwards. So next Friday, same time, same place, customized strategy. Really hope you can tune in. I've got some really excellent wider content and theory to share around the customized strategy and a totally different way to think about segmenting your audience. I'll email you all beforehand to remind you, but well worth tuning in for that. It's normally one of the most popular debriefs I run as part of the course. Follow-ups, reach out to me direct or program support with questions about the course. And thank you for tuning in. As I say, apologies, we had to rush a little bit at the end there. 2 minutes overtime. Sorry if I've held you up in your busy days. Thanks for taking the time to join me today, and have a great week, and I'll speak to you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.